It's a pleasure to have you here. The details now. Finance Minister Ofori Atta has justified the Agyapa Minerals royalty agreement, insisting it is the best way to efficiently manage Ghana's gold royalties. At a media briefing in Accra, the minister explained that for many years the nation has not really benefited from its gold and that the deal will be the game changer. Finance Minister's briefing came a day after some 15 CSOs called for the deal to be suspended. Listen to him.
Governments and our people get far less than what we deserve. We are placed at the bottom of the list of the beneficiaries of our own riches, whether it is gold, cocoa, timber, oil, bauxite, or diamonds. The story has been the same everywhere. This is predominantly to do with the fact that our value extraction ends at a point at which these resources leave our shores. Unfortunately, analysis undertaken over an extended period has shown that the largest increase in value occurs at exactly this point when it leaves our shores, where raw resources leaves the country and is converted into either refined products or monetizable securities. 500 times more gold is traded every day than is mined. Much of this happening in countries that have very little gold to themselves. President Akufo-Addo is clear in his mind that to achieve a Ghana beyond aid, we must add considerable value to what we produce and trade.
Finance Minister also responds to the CEOs raising issues with the deal.
With anyone, I saw one of the letters in which it talked about indecent haste and that there's no national emergency. If COVID is not a national emergency, I don't know what is. That there's a lot of, what do they call it, a lethal disadvantage to go to the stock market at this time. And this is the best time for the pricing of gold. I mean, if you don't take advantage of this, when else would you be able to? But I think, you know, that the issue that really was hurtful and made me discount the letter was when they ended saying that we are trying to stop elite capture, you know, which essentially meant that we here are doing this for ourselves and we have some shares in that. So if that frames the mindset in which it was brought, it makes it really very difficult to see whether it is genuine or it's intended, because you've seen us operate for 3.5 years, in which all we have done is to follow this Akufo-Addo plan to make sure that everybody benefits. And so to talk about elite capture was for me a very painful issue. The challenge for me, it's, you know, the opposition has been aware of this transaction since 2018. And have been part of the discussions, negotiations, etc. I can only hazard that because it's close to elections, they may feel that there's a political advantage of some sort. But it's not hasty, it's not new. And I saw some of them in the committee discussions, so obviously in which they were supportive of all of that. So there must be a new element, and the only element I can see is 102 days away, when December 6th. And so, but they are doing their job as opposition.
Finance Minister Ofori Atta responding to some CSOs days after they had raised concerns with the Agyapa Mineral Royalties deal. Now, one of the questions that has come up is what government intends to do with the funds that will come from this deal. We hear from Deputy Finance Minister Charles Boahen.
What do we want to use the money for? Really and truly, we want to focus on investing in primary capital expenditures in education, in health, in housing, and in infrastructure. We would like to upgrade existing schools in the mining areas, the University of Mines and Technology, might be a good idea to maybe look to see if we can enhance their operations, maybe help them set up a jewelry training or jewelry design course, so that we can create more value add along the gold chain. But just the whole gold value chain, we want to really be able to go further up the value chain and not just mine the raw ore and export it in its raw form. We need to be able to build refineries to refine the ore and do more value add. On the health side, it's all about resilience. I think this pandemic has showed us how important it is to make sure that we have health facilities across the length and breadth of the country, and especially in these mining areas where these miners always are running at the risk of their lives in these conditions. On the housing side, I think also the pandemic has showed us the importance of housing across the whole country, and we believe that it will be a good use of the monies to self-support some of our initiatives in the housing sector. Then also the road infrastructure. There's a lot of roads in these mining areas. In fact, a few of the mining companies have, as part of their social corporate responsibility, down the roads or improve the roads, but also for their own use because they use them. And a lot of heavy trucks ply these routes because of these mines. And it's important that these roads are kept in good condition in order to attract investment into these areas. And I know my chairman Duka here is smiling because he's from Takwa, so he appreciates, the need for all these initiatives. We also would like to support the new development bank we're setting up, which
Let's stay a while on the Agyapa Royalties agreement. Presidential candidate for the Convention People's Party, that's the CPP, Ivor Greenstreet, has described it as something that will not augur well for the citizenry.
The Agyapa Royalties deal is a bogus deal, which is a shocking aberration, which must be suspended as much as possible. And it shows you the ineptitude of our parliament that such a thing could have passed through it at this point in time. But Ghanaians should not be surprised, because it was the same NDC and NPP who collaborated with the passing of stability agreements for Newmont, Goldfields and Ashanti and these other large mining corporations to have their royalties reduced to as low as 1.5% from the gold that we get from this our precious soil. And Ghana is now the largest gold producer in Africa. So it is shocking that there should be an attempt to, yes, we all know there are financial instruments which are important. Yes, we all know that these are innovative futures, transactions which can be utilized for the benefit of the nation. But I think it ties the nation into a situation which is a straitjacket for future generations, which we are compelled to comply with. And I think it's unfortunate. But I think the president himself, on a previous occasion, has been able to intervene in another corrupt attempt or another aberration, which was the PDS transaction, and somehow that transaction was suspended. So maybe we'll wait to see whether he's ready to intervene on this occasion to see whether what Parliament has done will not be implemented and will be drawn back.
Well, that full interview is on Tuesday on Joy Prime at 8 p.m. Do make a date. Now, the CPP is calling on the new patriotic party, that's the NPP, and the NDC, the National Democratic Congress, to cease their constant attacks on the National Peace Council going into the elections. Now, in every election year, the Peace Council is accused of bias in the attempt to mediate and facilitate a peaceful dialogue among feuding political parties. Speaking to JoyNews on the sidelines of a day's advocacy training by the National Peace Council on Vigilantism and Related Offences Act in Brekum, the Bono Regional Chairman of the CPP, Salifu Doindoy, says the two main political parties' level of mistrust for state institutions is an affront to Ghana's peace and stability.
This, our dear country, we continue to see a lot of mischief being perpetrated by we Ghanaians, but notably among them the NDC and the NPP. Everything that the state does, it will be accused and criticized by the opposition party. Look at this council, the greatest body that it is mandated by law to make sure they do mediation to bring about peace. And their function transcends just bringing peace, preventing chaos. But any time that these two major political parties, NDC and NPP, they are in power, the one who is in opposition accuses the very person who is in power. And the one in power is always in support of whatever is happening. So time has come, as Ghanaians, we should tell the NDC and the NPP that enough is enough. They should love this country and let us see each other as one body. We should also begin to see each other as the only people that can bring peace. Peace can only manifest itself if we continue to respect this institution. Peace Council needs the support of everybody. If we don't support them, for them to engage us in peace building, always we shall be seeing each other accusing one another, especially the NDC and NPP who are guilty of it. So it has reached a level whereby we, the members of the Convention People's Party, think that it is time they should be disengaged and rather look at other parties that are peace-loving so that they will engage with these other parties and make sure those parties respect state institutions.
Explaining the importance of the training to JoyNews, Executive Secretary of the Bono Regional Peace Council, Sula Abdullah Kwanda, said if political parties fail to support measures to deal with vigilantism, they could soon overtake the state.
The National Peace Council facilitated a roadmap that resulted into a development of a code of conduct for political parties in Accra at the national level. How does the people on the ground take it? Are they even aware of it? And what is contained in this roadmap? What is contained in this code of conduct? It is therefore very important that we do advocacy on these things at the grassroots level so that people will get to know that this is what the government has done, or this is what Parliament has passed in the form of a law to regulate and guide activities of vigilantism, and also how political parties should behave towards elections. Every political party knows that if he should lose an election, he has lost everything. So we do everything possible to win that election, including foul means. And that is one of the reasons that we have vigilantism and political violence. Another issue is that vigilantism is becoming endemic in this country. We are not there yet, but we should not wait to be there. Because if we let it gain some kind of root on the ground, it will lead out to what is called state capture. We will reach a point where it will not only be about NPP or NDC, it will be about that group and the state, because they will want to capture the state, because they will form a coalition forces to fight the state. And that is why it is something very important we deal with it and nib it from the bud, so that it does not degenerate, it does not become so serious, it does not become a monster, so that dealing with it will become very difficult for us.
Away from politics, the entire community of over 1,000 people once trekked for hours to a muddied stream to get drinking water. Now the villagers of Freboye in the Ashanti region can heave a sigh of relief thanks to Promasidor Ghana Limited, producers of cowbell. A borehole, one of 20 that the beverage maker is building across the country, now means clean drinking water is readily available. Here's a report by Justice Bedu.
Children or people have to walk like 2 or 3 miles to fetch water from other community every weekend. So when they are not coming with the water, it means I'm not going to get water, or we are not going to get water to do our infection prevention. Sometimes you can even be there the whole day because there's no water, you will not bath.
This is the story of the health workers at Freboye, a small community in the Ashanti region. This facility, built 5 years ago, is the health lifeline for villagers in this small town. And yet, a lack of water has held back its ability to work properly.
Our biggest problem in this town was getting water into this compound. When it was built, there was no water facility attached. It was tough to get even electricity.
It's not hard to find where people in Freboye used to fetch water. It is a brownish stream just on the outskirts. It has dried up and broken sticks floating all over. Aside the crunch difficulties that the health center went through before Cowbell's intervention, it was here that nearly every child in the community had to trek to before making it to school.
The rainwater used to wash all the filth into the water. That's what we use for everything here. Sometimes we have to wake up and go there at 3 a.m. Sometimes you get there and the water is so dirty.
For the kakra, my name and penny for the council.
We ask for God's blessings for Cowbell, and we would always support the work they do.
Now,
as a socially responsible company, we thought it wise to get potable water very close to the chip compound, because this is where our health facility is. Because as a brand, health is very important to us. Consuming nutritional products is very important to us. And having water close to a chip compound which doesn't have water was one major thing we actually considered before bringing water to this community.
In the era of COVID, and when hand washing is the key, hand washing is the key. And with this water, the water has come at the right time for us, because the hand washing, since some people were fetching the water for us, when they have not fetched water for you, you will not get water to use it frequently. But with the water around, anytime, at any point, the water can be accessed and we can do our proper hand washing to prevent infection prevention.
Now those risks to getting water is no more, thanks to Cowbell. Justice Bedu, JoyNews, Freboye in the Ashanti region.
Government says it's working to improve health system in the country's prisons to prevent an outbreak of COVID-19 there. Apart from seconding some 40 medical personnel to deliver health care in the prisons, government says amnesty it granted to some 1,089 inmates are all part of a broad policy deliberately executed to improve safety and quality health care in the prisons. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia said this at the graduation ceremony of some 115 cadet officers at the Prison Officers Training School here in Accra.
Government is also working closely with the service to improve the health system within our prisons, especially in this era of COVID-19. It is well understood that the disease spreads quickly in enclosed places like prisons, which are commonly epicenters for infectious diseases. This is of great concern to the government, particularly where there is overcrowding. In addition to the support with 40 medical personnel seconded from the Ghana Health Service, government has provided prison establishments with PPEs, infrared thermometers, soap, tissue papers, Veronica buckets, and so on. I would like to commend the prisons administration on the swift manner the service joined forces with other agencies in the criminal justice system and the Ghana Health Service to respond more effectively to the COVID-19 threat. The creation of risk communication teams in all prisons comprising medical, chaplaincy, and communication staff to educate and address the myth and anxiety surrounding COVID-19, as well as to tackle issues of stigmatization, has so far been effective. Again, the unrelenting effort of the service in protecting the country's prisoners from dangers of the disease is very much recognized, and I wish to commend the Director General and his able lieutenants and urge them to continue with the good work. Further to the efforts to strengthen the fight against COVID-19, the President assented to the presidential amnesty for some categories of prisoners on 7th January and 1st May this year to free a total of 1,589 from prison to mitigate the impact of overcrowding. I hope these former prisoners will make good use of this opportunity to contribute meaningfully to the Ghanaian society.
Vice President Dr. Bawumia commended these cadet officers for successful graduation, but he also reminded them to treat inmates with decency.
We urge you not to leave the valuable instruction and training you have received here behind. As you move to your various stations, abide by the rules and regulations that guide your conduct as prison officers and direct your energies towards self-improvement. Avoid all acts of indiscipline to safeguard your career. I charge you to carry forth the ideals of the prison service which have been imparted to you in the course of your training. Let discipline and professionalism guide your conduct at all times. I also entreat you to internalize the principles of vigilance, humanity, and fortitude. These must be your watchwords in your relationship with fellow officers and inmates.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Powell. Banks are challenging claims you are not doing enough to deal with increasing fraud cases in the sector. This is coming after a new report by the Bank of Ghana cited internal banking staff as aiding fraudulent activities. Banks are being accused of not showing much seriousness towards tackling the issue. But Acting Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Bankers, John Ivor, rejects that assertion. He has been speaking to George Afe.
From where we sit, any fraud hitting any bank is one too many. What it means is we take it very serious when a fraud incident is recorded or event is recorded in any of our member banks, or for that reason, any financial institution. Unfortunately, because of how the report was put together, it's difficult to decipher how much of it is attributable to, of the increase, is attributable to mainstream universal banking, that is our member institutions. But that said, I would say that if you read the report critically, there are other positives that you can take away from the report. The level of success of the fraudsters has gone down by almost over 70%. Even for the active cases, which is the loss that was recorded, you find clearly that also declined between 2018 and 2019. In numbers, because it's an aggregation from microfinance, savings and loans, banks, Momo and telco and fintech operators, it's very difficult to specifically speak to which portion of it affects the bank, apart from to say that of the number of cases, 23% related to banks.
Now, government says it will soon increase the annual grant of $500,000 given to the VRA Trust Fund. Deputy Minister of Energy William Oreku Edu announced this when he commissioned a 6-unit staff bungalow and a 2-unit kindergarten block for 2 of the resettled communities. There is more in the following report.
The fund, set up in 1996, is to allow the Volta River Authority and Barcon project to improve the livelihoods of the 52 communities that had to be resettled as a result of the construction of the Akonsomo Dam. There have been, however, concerns about the fund's inability to meet critical needs of the people due to resource constraints. At a handover ceremony of a 6-unit staff bungalow at New Somanya, Deputy Energy Minister William Oreku Edu said that concern will be addressed soon.
Government is also having discussions with VRA on the possibility of increasing the annual grant, and I'm pleased to announce that this is yielding positive results. I have been reliably informed that apart from the annual grant, which is being released on time with no outstanding, VRA is also funding critical projects and programs for the Trust Fund, one of which is the funding for fumigation of all the facilities within the resettlement townships, which will begin next week. Some critical issues of concern are the road network, land litigation, and water. These issues have been brought to the attention of the Ministry of Energy, and they are on my table right now, being given special attention.
It is the expectation of the MCE and trustees of the fund that the facility will change educational outcomes in that community. Speaking on behalf of the board chairman, MP for Yilo Krobo, Magnus Amwate, called on the people of Agina to ensure that 2 units kindergarten block is properly maintained.
We have decided that when we are commissioning a project, we will on that same day hand over the project or the facility to the district assembly or the municipal assembly together for them to hold in trust for the beneficiary community for the purpose of maintenance. Because we are looking at this edifice, this beautiful edifice today. Come 3-5 years, we may not find it as it is.
Chief of Idumasa, Nanaza Called IV, called for additional facilities, especially ICT, to enhance the quality of education in the area. The 2-unit kindergarten block was built with support from Seaboard, BOST, the NPA, and the Energy Ministry.
And we've got a full bulletin of business news coming up at the top of the hour. Up next, sports.